Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we've gathered here today, and it's Doctor Who night with the third Doctor and Joe, and it's Colony in space. Yes, we've actually sat down and we watched this, and still recovering. Let's go first. Let's go to Lee to begin with, to Hull. See what Hull makes of Colony in space.
Yes, well, this...
I think that sums it up, rather. Let's go to...
yeah, no, it's a six-part adventure in the same in my same league as, I would say, the Mutants and the Time Monster. Boring as hell. I'm sorry to say. John Pertwee, I love John Pertwee, I love Katie Manning, but this was too long. Roger Delgado, yes, he's brilliant as the Master. I just don't know why he was in this story. And it looked quite cheap, to be honest. I said to Ali earlier, they may have run out of the budget on this story. I don't know. But yeah, it was six episodes. They could have told this story in 2 episodes. As Ali said to me the other day, they could have gone from episode 1 to episode 6 and miss out all the middle bit. So, but I can't knock John Pertwee. He's a brilliant Doctor. I can't knock Delgado. But this story I just don't know. Over to you, Ali.
I mean, even the Master, it's like they just remembered he was in the story and they went, oh yeah, we just forgot Roger Delgado's in this story. Oh, sugar, we're halfway through it. Quick, get on, Roger. You know, he just suddenly comes out, and I know they mention him in the first. They mention the Master in part 1 at the very beginning, but then he just appears randomly just to keep it going, just to keep the episode going. Let's see if Susan and Alex enjoyed this more.
Thank you. Well, I really, I love Roger Delgado, and I love John Pertwee and Katie Manning, and I agree with Lee about that. I think that the story took a lot to, because of what they were trying to say about colonists versus miners, they had to build that part of the story up. There was that story, which could have been its own story. You know, the Doctor could have come and he could have been the adjudicator for that particular group of individuals. And they could have had him and Katie, or him and Joe, work out what's going on between those two opposing factions, and then have another story about the indigenous life form on the planet, maybe like a 4-parter with the miners versus settlers, because that was a lot of characters and a lot of action and dialogue and stuff, and the monster that they created. But then they could have gone to a 2-parter for the indigenous life forms, and the Master and the Doomsday Machine. I think that Harry's going to tell us that the book is called The Doomsday Machine, but the story is basically like the lion's share of the story is basically miners versus settlers, what it's like to colonize a planet versus have a mineral rights to, basically turn it into a quote-unquote slag heap. And that's actually a really political discussion during the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's a really interesting story to me. Both my parents and myself and some of my other siblings have been in the mining industry, and we know that it's always a political deal when you're asking somebody for mineral rights and stuff. it's got its own issues. And so, it could have been two separate stories, and the doctor could have adjudicated. But that's just my theory on the subject. And here's Alex.
He's sleeping.
No, it's okay. It is actually a very good story. I think they just did too many points. It was sort of, and it has no budget. They have no budget even for costumes. I mean, it is political because you have us versus them, and that's important in sci-fi. And of course, the company wants the property, and the colonists want to be there, and then you have sort of aliens with like this weird brain head design, and they're slightly interesting. And then you have the master, who is always interesting and very smooth, but the problem is there was too many point and counterpoint and cross and double cross, and then it's like, okay guys, it would be cute like 2 times each, but then it felt like 12 times each. And so that's the problem with Doctor Who old and new, is that they're trying to cram 10 characters into one story, or 5 points into one story, and it's very hard to do that in a reasonable short amount of time. As we know in New Who, they don't have many times, they don't have 2-hour stories, and they don't have a lot of two-parters because it's harder to sell in this internet culture that you have to digest everything quickly. And I did like John Pertwee, and I did like his companions, and I did like the Master, especially as portrayed by Roger Delgado. But the stories were all like, they all felt like 14 episodes long. So it's like you're watching a play. It's like you're watching a play or a book. No, but it's like you're watching a play or a book, which is fine. But the problem is you're also watching it on TV. And like I mentioned the other day, I was trying to watch it at midnight on one of the public television stations. And, I'm partially falling asleep because of the hour, I mean, it's hard to watch it at midnight and all that. It's but I mean, I'll give them an A for trying to do something. But it would have been better if they had a better budget. It would have been better if they had a little bit of a quicker pace. But, unfortunately, Doctor Who barely has any money, especially in the old days.
I don't think it was budget with this. I just think it was story. It was just way too talky and overly long. And I don't think that, because you can have a low budget episode that's a good episode, it's still a good story, but this is just dull. Let's go to Stephen and then we'll go to Harry.
This episode was dull, boring and overlong and too much talking. The robot in it and a few other things I'll mention later, which was absolutely terrible. That's all I got to say for now.
Yep, let's move to Harry then, and he's got the book.
Yeah, thank you. If my video was working, I'd show you guys the book. It's got a picture of the monster in the middle, and on one side you've got the, best way to describe it is you've got the gatekeeper for the great machine. On the other side, you've got one of the local primitives. The book is called Doomsday Weapon. It's written by Malcolm Hulk. Hulk gives a much different opening to the story than what we see on TV. It's basically like what you get if you read the opening for the Daleks, that in the sense that it's like Jo is first starting off at UNIT, describing how she tried to get on as a spy, working as a secretary or filing clerk some other place, and she said, I don't want to work there. I want to work someplace as a spy. And so her uncle sets her up with UNIT. In response to the thing about it, the six-parter being slow and such, it's the way a lot of six-parters were back then. It was basically almost at times that they were not careful. It was 2 stories in one, 4 parts in one, 2 parts in another. You had that at times. And as far as it being dull, slow, dull, you want to talk about a bad story. I can suggest one that, even though it's a comedy, if you want to talk about bad visual effects, try watching Carnival of Monsters. That one will put you...
Hey, that's good. I like Carnival of Monsters.
Or Colony in Space, as people like to call it.
Yeah, I like Carnival of Monsters. It's a good episode. It's got good effects, good story. But this, I like John Pertwee, and I like John Pertwee's era, and I like Joe Grant. But I'm sorry, Katie Manning, but you were quite bad in this episode. There wasn't much acting going on, was there? I hope she doesn't watch this. Part of the problem is, I think the directing of this episode, the direction of this episode was bad. I don't think the directing was good.
Katie will only watch this episode, this podcast, if Cher tells her to.
If we pay her. Yeah, if we pay her. Well, but it's so dull. It's so boring. I mean, I haven't watched it in a very long time, and then I watched it 2 weeks ago, and that's why I suggested it. And I realised why I hadn't watched it in so long. And really, I should have kept it like that. Because, honestly, it is truly a bad episode. End of. There's nothing even good about it. I mean, you've got that terrible robot, which looks like if it's stuck in the 1960s William Hartnell era. And then you've got the offspring of the Green Giant.
Well, I mean, again,
I just kept looking at them and thinking, I want sweet corn.
Again, it wasn't.
And when in doubt, when you run out of budget, just paint some men green and call them aliens and put a loincloth over them. And they weren't even going to have that cloth, because I watched the commentary, and they weren't even going to have that cloth. They were going to be completely naked.
Well, we can't have that on British television.
It could have ended up being a totally different episode, and I might have enjoyed it.
That would have been really fun.
And you were just on about your tight end earlier. Well, there you go.
In sex space or whatever.
But I want to add someone else as well. I want to add somebody else before Alex, the true host, jumps in. If Alex will just allow me to say that. Have you even noticed that in this episode the TARDIS just disappears? The TARDIS just disappears. It doesn't fade out or fade in. It just disappears. And do you know why that is?
Because
do you know why it is?
The Time Lord.
No, it wasn't.
Yes. It's under Time Lord control. It stayed in the book. It stayed in the story. When you watch it, it was under Time Lord control. That's why it doesn't have the usual sound would dematerialize.
No, that's not the reason. That's actually not the reason. No, wait. Hold it, Harry. Hold your horse, Harry. Nay. The actual reason is because the director didn't know that the TARDIS just faded away.
What? What? Really?
It says it in the commentary. And look how battered the poor TARDIS is as well. I mean, the TARDIS is having a rough time with this episode.
Yeah. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, the TARDIS looks like it's ready to just fall apart. Just go. It's like a garage door. It's just going to either fold up or fall out. It's just going to. That's why I was laughing a little bit. You just reminded me of the other show that we kind of criticized, the Tomorrow People, where they're criticizing Doctor Who. And the problem is, it's not that it isn't good sci-fi, but visually, it's not the best sci-fi. And unfortunately, that's where Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, and all that started, taking over.
This is not good sci-fi, this episode.
No, but they have it. It has theoretically a good plot. The problem is the direction, the budget, and then the aliens don't look too good, especially where unfortunately, where you have Star Wars and all that. I mean, the potential is there. They're just not able to do it. And then
be too naughty.
Right, and then the problem is, basically after the second episode, you're basically in a debating society for 3 episodes, basically.
I know, it's just talk.
Which is intellectual, but it's not fun visually.
I mean, there's more action in Lee's bedroom than there is in this 6-parter. There's more action in the bedrooms across Hull than this 6-parter.
One thing you got to remember, though, is that this was the first crack in the original plans for the Pertwee era. Pertwee era was all supposed to have been earthbound. This was the first time they had a crack in that plan. And with the monster having acquired the plans for the Doomsday Weapon and such, so they had to, in effect, start the first crack. And it showed up more in the following season.
God, in one season. Wow. Now we've gone on to crack. Well, that explains this episode, really, doesn't it? We've had tight end and crack in one night. Now just put those two together.
Oh, matron!
Oh, dear.
Let's move on before we... Anyway, favourite moments. Let's go into favourite moments. Alex, you look very happy there. What are your favourite moments?
Okay, well, like I said...
or crack, just on the episode itself.
Well, like I said, you have Roger Delgado and you have John Pertwee, and they're great actors. I mean, no matter what you give them, they are great. Like I said, there was a lot of potential here that wasn't utilized properly. What's his name?
In other words, when someone says there was a lot of potential,
yeah.
In other words, it was crap.
No,
that's what you want to say. It's another language for it was crap.
No. What's the guy's name?
It's like when you go to Hull and you say, "Oh yes, this place has got a lot of potential."
The what was it? The unofficial leader of the or the official leader of the colonists. What was his name again?
Let's just call him John.
No, it wasn't John.
Ash.
Ash. There we go. So, right, Ash. Not to be confused with the Evil Dead.
Or Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, he also could have been a very good character, but the problem is they didn't give him a lot to do either. And then, of course, you had the captain, who obviously was the villain of the piece. And as some people would say, he's not twirling his mustache yet. So, like I said, it wasn't bad in theory, but the thing is, if they could have done 3 episodes and kept it really tight, I think it would have been actually a very good yarn. But the problem is, over 6 episodes, you kind of go, okay, so the doctor has to debate someone else. Then Joe gets kidnapped again, and even the producers admitted, Barry Letts admitted that, they had to do that sometimes. They had to do the damsel in distress, so they had to do the cliffhanger or the quick reveal or the reveal that goes to, next week or whatever. Because it was, when this was originally broadcast, what was it, 3 episodes a week, or was it 2 episodes a week and then you had to go to the next week and all that?
It was 1 per week.
Was it? Well, I'm asking. Was it
one a week? Wasn't it? One a week.
Okay. So that,
On Saturday.
yeah, on Saturday. So basically, you had one story, depending on what decade you're in, is either 6 parts.
Speaking of
12
decades,
parts.
Alex, while we're still in this decade, can we have Susan's favourite moments, please? Thank you.
Oh, what was your favorite moment?
I already said.
No,
I know. I went over a little bit.
it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
You got to keep it tight, Alex. Keep it tight.
He just, he wants to know stuff, and he's really brilliant. So, okay, so here, let me.
He's too loose is the problem. That's it, Alex. Tighten it. That's it. There you go.
Let me say that my favorite moment, I think, would have to be where Joe is in the alien landscape with those alien guys, and like she was they were threatening to kill her, and it was so amazing. Like I just like that bit a lot. And the other part that I like is I like the debate society. I like it when the two sides of the political spectrum were arguing. It's good for it.
Yep. Let's go to Harry for favourite moments.
If I had to choose a favorite moment, it would be when IMC actually did a favor for the Doctor. They found the key to the monster's TARDIS, opened it up, and got Joe out of the tube, which was slowly being filled with poison gas. To me, that's probably one of my best moments from this story.
Let's go to Stephen for favourite moments.
Where Joe goes into the TARDIS and says, "Oh, it's bigger in the inside."
Yeah.
Doctor explains why. I like that part. And like you said, the TARDIS disappears rather quick. The Brigadier is not amused. Doctor, I want you back here straight away now.
Good,
The other
like he's in the
part I
room.
like.
Yeah, that's my favorite bit too. All right, sorry, excuse me.
Anything with the Brigadier is your favourite bit, Susan.
The other part is on the out in space, and the Master is threatening the Doctor, and he's talking to this egghead person on there. Can't remember the name of the egghead, but that was my favourite moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, Lee, have a good hard think about this. Hey?
And the robot was terrible.
Oh, no, the robot was awful, yeah. Now, Lee, have a good hard think about this. What was your favourite moment in the story?
In the story, well, it was good to see returning actors playing roles in this story from the Hartnell era. Bernard Kay had been in many Hartnell and Troughton stories. He was playing one of the IMC miners who sort of stayed on at the end. Also, you had the actor who played Ash. He played the villain in the Aztecs, the Hartnell story. So there was good to see some familiar faces. But I can't really think of any good points about the story.
Well, I have to say, I think one of the great moments of the episode is actually how the episode ends with a title sequence.
With the credit, with the title.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the
well,
credit,
I was going to get to that point. But, I mean,
You have a big sigh of relief.
The showdown with the miners and the colonists, with the gunfight in the cargo hold or wherever it was terribly done, because the backdrop.
Yeah,
you could see it was a backdrop.
It was awful.
They were stood on top of the stairs. They were stood on top of the stairs, and you could see the backs against the backdrop. And it was supposed to be distance, but that was terrible. I just don't understand why the Master was in this. I know he was in every story of that season, and I think he was overused, to be honest. As good as Delgado is, I just don't know why he was this. I mean, the Master would not. He would just go in there. he'd get the weapon himself and go. Wow, because why all this charade when he didn't even know that the Doctor was there anyway?
But not only that, those green things weren't any threat. Those aliens were no threat. He froze again now.
No. The Master of yeah. I don't know why he was, charade as the adjudicator at all. Yeah, the robot was terrible, and it was even worse when they put the false clothes on it. Excellent quarry work. It looked like a nice quarry. There you go.
Yeah, it was a good quarry. Was a good, decent Doctor Who quarry. That was a classic quarry.
One of the best Doctor Who quarries I've seen on film.
Yeah.
Well,
but apart from that, nothing else. And it's truly, honestly, it's just bad. I mean, you've got the scene as well where Joe and the Doctor have to crawl on their backs along the TARDIS floor. And you're just thinking, what on earth are you doing? You just
what I wanted to know was, why didn't they show a single viable plant?
They did show a plant. They did show a plant. He picked one up in the very first scene. Well, the very first scene, they're on the planet.
Yeah. It was not there. Anyway.
A flower. She picked up a flower and she said, "Oh, look at this flower," with a bad acting.
Overgrown flower cactus type of looking thing, but not very wide. No, like I said, the Master and the Doctor are always.
You're going back to tight again, aren't you, Alex?
But well, I mean, again, he did. The Master was threatening the Doctor even when the Doctor, helped him from getting killed. I mean, he could have had, that spear in him or whatever, and the Master goes, "Oh, that old," he almost goes, "That old chestnut," almost. And then the Master almost did shoot the Doctor, and then he was threatening with that magic button, ring that he had or whatever. But yeah, I mean it yeah.
But why did the Master even need to be there? It was just pointless.
This is my point exactly. That's what I said. He didn't need to be in the story. And also, as well, you've just reminded me, Alex, when you said about the button thing. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but every cliffhanger in this story, it was just a close-up on Pertwee's face.
Yeah, but the brilliant one was the first cliffhanger of episode 1, where the robot's coming towards him like that. It's like a mile away, and then he's got... I mean, why didn't he just step to the side? He could have completely avoided it.
Yes, it wasn't moving very quickly, was
honestly,
it?
But the claws are so far apart that he could have just fitted in the middle of it. I mean, but yeah, he just fell backwards going... So stupid.
Also, did anybody notice, when the Guardian kicked the small arm out of the wall, did you notice the arm in the back of his head?
No, I don't think I did, no.
It was a hand. Yeah, it was a hand puppet.
Oh, I know.
The head was a hand. There was a hand in. As the chair came out the wall. Yeah, as the chair came out the wall, you could see like an arm in the pit.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah. But even that when you see the big lizard thing. And then the woman is the woman in there screaming, and she's looking at first. She's looking towards the doorway, and the camera's looking at her, and she's screaming. And then suddenly, for some bizarre reason, it then turns to a different angle, and she's screaming another way.
Yep.
I just felt very weird.
Those red helmets they were wearing were terrible.
Well, that reminds me of something else, everybody. What about the shootout? What about
Red
the
Helmets.
shootout? What about the
Oh
shoot?
my God.
What about the shooting scenes? You know, the scenes with the rifles and all this. I mean, so it starts out very intellectual, and then it gets overlong, and then it gets very gimmicky.
Yeah, but the shootout is
Yeah,
terrible.
the shootout. Yeah.
The shootout is terrible.
Yeah.
There's no suspense to the shootout at all, is there? I mean,
Badly done. Yeah.
And here they've done
also-
some absolutely brilliant shootout scenes, like the empty warehouse scene,
yeah.
in other episodes. I mean, they know how to do, a shootout.
Yeah, Lee wants to talk about the shootout. What do you want to say, Lee? Nope.
Oh, I was totally going somewhere else about we also had Helen Worth in here in this story.
Gail.
These people who in the UK will know her from being in Coronation
Yes,
Gail
Gail,
Tilsley in Coronation Street for 40 odd years.
She looks
yeah,
so
I mean-
young here.
Some of them characters, the colonists, they were pointless.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it was one of her first acting jobs. But some of these colonists were so you didn't need them there. I mean, you could even tell that the beards were false. With the close-up shots, you could see they were false. So the budget, I don't know. Was it budget? Was it timing? Was the timing wrong was the on a, they had to get this done and in the can? I don't know. I mean, even the budget for the DVD cover, I think they run out of money. Because that is not one of the best covers.
No, it's very bland.
Or
yeah.
Very
Yeah, but it
bland.
suits the episode. I think it's trying to warn you. It's trying to warn you the quality of the story. It's there as a warning. Gigs Assembled has more of a budget than this story, and that's saying something. And to be honest, Joe, there's better acting in Gigs Assembled.
No, we haven't got a budget. We've got a budgie.
Oh, a budgie. Oh. The budgie's still
we've got
better
a budgie,
acting
not
than
a
Joe
budgie.
Grant in this episode, though.
I don't agree, but anyway, poor Joe, poor Katie.
No, I like Joe and I like Katie Manning, but I think in this episode, I just think maybe it's partly down to the directing, but I don't think Joe came off very well in this episode.
Now, I've been trying to do research, and I'm not finding any producers actually for this story. I mean, is that why it looks so bad? Because it's not actually a producer?
Produced by Barry Letts.
Oh, no, but I mean for the story.
Barry Letts.
Oh, Barry Letts.
No, I know Terence Dix wanted away or something from Earth.
Yes, he did. I know that. Yeah, it says on the back of the DVD. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably blurry.
As Harry said, it was written by Malcolm Hulk, but it was produced by Barry Letts. Yeah.
Anyway, we might as well move on to final say and score, because otherwise we'll be here all night. I'm sure Alex would love that. But let's go. Let's start off with Alex and Susan first. How would you rate Colony in Space?
Colony in Space, for the first story, the colonists versus miners, I'd give that a 7. And for the aliens and the Doomsday Weapon,
No. We want an overall score.
no, there's 2 stories here though. That's
You give no.
And that bit gets 6.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it gets a 6 from Susan altogether.
Yeah, like I said, the acting isn't terrible, but it's the direction, it's the cameras, it's the budget, it's the setting. It's not tight in terms of being fast. It has
Back to tight again, Susan.
It has a lot of. It has.
Got him.
Well, it's not tight pacing. That's the problem. So I mean, the potential is there. I mean, the original 8th season of Doctor Who isn't bad. It has great acting, great ideas. It has a great, theory. So it's not a waste of time. But it's just they don't have the budget. A lot of them don't have, like this one doesn't have the budget, doesn't have the pacing. Then it gets all gimmicky in the last 3 episodes. So it's sort of like. I don't know. I don't know what they were trying. I don't know if they were trying to, appeal to everybody. I don't know. But there are other stories that are better, like The Mind of Evil or other Claws of Axos. I mean, even though it has slow parts, at least with the Claws of Axos, the aliens look alien. Here they don't look as good.
Hang on.
So
let me say one more favorite moment before Alex finishes, and that was when the Doctor said, listen, I don't want to rule the universe. I just want to see it.
No, that was nice.
That was good.
That
yes,
was
I
a
did like
killer line. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
that was very good.
That was, that was also very interesting, but it was also very gimmicky because at the end, then the master's like, "Well, then die," and it's like, dude, you lost all your cool here. So overall, the story, I guess I'll give it a 7. I just wish it could have been edited better, maybe something. It definitely needed like 3 more improvements, definitely.
I think it needed more than 3. I think you're being generous on that one. Let's go to Harry for final say and score.
As I said, I've seen better, I've seen worse. As far as my rating for the show, this story, I'd probably give it a 6. I've seen Pertwee do a lot better. One story I would say definitely he did a great job, Inferno. But I just can't give this one a very high rating. As far as the book's concerned, Hulk does a decent job, but he puts so much depth in the character, it's almost like you're losing what the story's about. So the book gets a 5, unfortunately.
Wow, the book lower.
Like Malcolm Hulk does a good job. Sometimes he puts so much depth into the writing about the characters, he loses track of the stories.
Terrence Dick should have wrote it, shouldn't he, Harry?
I'm sorry, that's just the way I look at it, but that's just me. I'm a book lover.
Yep. No. It's unusual to get a lower score for the book, to be honest. Let's go to Stephen in Swansea.
Well, no.
No.
Oh, no. No. I do not live there.
I do not live there. I live in...
No, matron, no.
Dear matron.
No.
Dear matron.
Well, this episode, it wasn't terrible, but it's better than any Matt Smith episode.
Ouch.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I'd give this a 7. I do like John Pertwee and Joe Grant.
You couldn't even remember who it was then.
What?
Yes, I do like John Pertwee and her, yeah. So, Lee, are you going to go higher or lower than Swansea's 7?
I am going to score this the same way I scored the Censorite. by each actor who I liked in the story, because the story didn't do anything for me. John Pertwee, there's one score. Roger Delgado, there's another score. Katie Manning, there's another score. Nicholas Courtney, we had him in episode 1 and 6, there's another score. But I agree with Alid about Katie's acting in this one. It wasn't up to par, so I'm deducting half a point. So it's 3.5 from me.
3.5. Yeah, I'm glad somebody else has agreed with me that I don't think Katie was particularly great.
How low can you go?
Oh, very low, especially with a tight end. But, yeah, that's distracted me now. What was it saying? I've distracted me myself. I've really distracted myself now. What I was saying. Yeah, no, I'm glad that somebody else agreed with me that this wasn't a great episode for Katie. But I do think that is partly down to directing. So I don't think it's totally her fault, because she is very, very good. And even in other episodes before this, she's been amazing in them. So I do think that some of it is the directing that doesn't help her really. And some of the dialogue didn't help her out. So I don't fully blame Katie Manning at all. Just to clear that up, just in case she's watching. But for me,
by Michael Bryant. So, and he's had a lot. He had a lot of good runs on stories during his time working with Doctor Who. So, I think it's basically the problem is with Matt Hulk's script.
Yeah, it's the script. Yeah. I'm going to give it. Oh, I hate to say this. I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2. It's so bad. The only reason why I'm giving it a 2 is because it says Doctor Who on the cover, and it's got John Pertwee's good. And that's why I'm giving it 2. There you go. And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody who. Yeah. And I'm not going to watch it again, so we're not going to re-review any of these ones. I mean, we've got a re-review of Frozen coming up very shortly for you to look forward to, but we're not re-reviewing.
If you feel like giving away your DVD, we'll take it here in the United States.
I'm quite happy with my DVD. I want to.
Excuse me, talking about Frozen, I just turned my heating up now. It's freezing here. That's the only Frozen I am.
Just let it go, Stephen. I'd like to thank you for watching. Look after yourself. Take care, and we will see you next time.